again, I think it speaks to a lot of what we've been talking about. People, it's kind of a trope for older generations to be like these kids these days, and they're picking on like specifically maybe over reliance on the technology. But if you actually ask young people, they themselves feel without these technologies, they feel like they're online too much. They see the negative side of things. They're dumb. They're like well aware of the trade-offs they're experiencing by, on the one hand, having more opportunities to connect, but also some of the challenges associated with it. And so I think what they're expressing is they're saying that there was a time, my parents and maybe older siblings and cousins talk about this time before smartphones, when people actually got together and did things. And they're saying, maybe there's a lesson there. Like maybe there's a lesson that we can not throw away or again from what you're experiencing. These aspects of the past were problematic, but these aspects of the past were cool, and they were inspiring. And I want to weave that in to do something new, something fresh, but that also still makes me feel connected to previous generations that inspired me.
I have to say, Alan, it's making me wonder whether nostalgia, sometimes our attachment to nostalgia, limits the ways in which we understand history and understand and accept the ways in which history is present. So if we look at certain eras and say, oh, well, back then, things were better or things were worse back then, not understanding the ways in which that history may be closer to us or still affects the way we live in the present, is that a limiting factor of nostalgia?
I think it absolutely is, and I love that you brought in fashion, because I think that
What
it's
beach is this
also
called?
worth distinguishing between
Just
aesthetic nostalgia.
What?
Things were cool looking in the past. That's something you can bring into the present, no problem.
Okay.
You can put on your bell bottoms, and all of a sudden you're just wearing the fashion from the past, and that's something you can tweak. But if it's not about the past looking cool, but rather the past being better. People back then were more faithful, or they kept their promises, or the relationships were better, or they didn't, I don't know, didn't lie to each other as much. That's a totally different thing. And I think it's the ethical nostalgia, what I would call the normative nostalgia for a time that was actually morally better, that really gets us into trouble. It makes us blind to the complexities of the past, and also locks us into a kind of backward-looking vision of what improvement would be rather than a forward one. So I think aesthetic creativity might be really well served